أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, our dear viewers, and welcome to this program on Ramadan Mubarak entitled Ramadan Series. If you remember, last Thursday, this time we had also another program on the same topic in the month of Ramadan, and it was Ramadan and the glorious Quran. And today we are going to talk about the health benefits of Ramadan, as well as what age can someone begin fasting. I have two gentlemen in the studio. On my immediate right, we have Brother Sekou Omar Diba, and on his right, we have Ustaz Dauda SK Cham. Gentlemen, assalamu alaikum and welcome to the program. First of all, we will go and watch the video we have on this topic today, and when we come back, we continue with the studio discussion.
So before I will comment on implications of fast on child's health, I want to explain briefly about the growth and development of the child. So normally growth refers to the increase in body shape, size, height and weight of the body. And development is a growth processes where one can develop, including physical, mental, social and emotional and moral characteristics of the body. You can say that growth is a part of development, and growth will limit it to at certain age depending upon individual to individual. But development is a continuous process throughout the life. So let me explain you briefly. There are three types of growth: physical growth, cognitive growth and social and emotional growth. Physical growth refers to the increase in the shape, size, height and weight of the body and other physical characteristics of the body. Like cognitive growth, it refers to the development of the mind, including intellectual abilities, learning, thinking and remembering of the child. It also enables child problem solving capacity and decision making skills. So the third type is social and emotional growth. It is the development of a child's ability to build a relationship with others and to express their emotions and understand what is right and what is wrong in the society. It also includes self-awareness, communication and interpersonal skills. So when we are talking about a child observing fast, all these type of growths can be affected. So let me give you one example. Normally a child required more fluids and energy to maintain a healthy body, especially the brain development. So in the absence of food or water, after a few hours, the main source of brain energy is glucose, can be depleted. So this reduction in energy can lead to a range of behavioral changes, from short temper to a very serious complications like weakness and fatigue. So we use the term hungry, means bad temper as a result of hunger. So the same way the physical growth and the social and emotional growths can also be affected. So parents should assess the child's ability to observe fast based on the following things, like his health, his activity level and tolerance to hunger, and you can say that and eating frequency. We should also keeping in view the other factors, like if Ramadan is coming in a summer season, so the weather changes. So in summer season, if a child is observing fast, that can lead to severe dehydration, which can be life-threatening. And the same way, another factor is duration of the fast. In some countries, duration of the fast is 15 to 16 hours, and in some countries it's less. But in Gambia here, we have 13 to 14 hours almost. So again, we will advise parents to assess the physical health of their child, whether the child can tolerate this number of hours. So at the end, I will suggest that at the age of 15 to 16, child should start observing fast. You can say that 4 to 5 fasts in a month, so that he can be habitual. And at the age of 18, if a child is, when child become mature, so then he can observe fast fully. So it again will depend upon person to person.
Viewers, you're welcome back to the studio. That was the video we had from Hafiz Dr. Asif. He's a doctor at the Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat here, and we have all heard what he said. Gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum again, and welcome to the program. So, Ustaz Dawda SK Cham, we have heard what Dr. Asif was just explaining, but he made mention about the age at which someone should start fasting, maybe as a training sort of, and then when as well the fast should be incumbent upon the person. So you take us through that. At what age should a person, begin fasting, and fasting as a form of training, until when it becomes compulsory on him or her to be fasting regularly in Ramadan?
Okay, Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, the Ustaz Sahab and viewers and listeners. When it comes to fasting, it is obligatory on believing men and women, as specified in the Holy Quran when Allah says, Kutiba alaykumus siyam. So it's a religious obligation, which, like any other religious obligations, there are certain conditions attached which makes it obligatory. So as far as fasting is concerned, it is obligatory on mature people who are mature. So in terms of maturity, you can, there may be different parameters to determine maturity. But in a religious sense, if somebody start, particularly young men, when they started seeing their what is called wet dream, something like that, there is a possibility for them to start a family at whatever early that stage may be, can be considered mature, and it varies from cultures and from regions. That is why the benchmark normally considered is 18 years, that it becomes obligatory, and there is no excuse not to fast if you don't have any other health or other difficulties which will hinder you from fasting. So the benchmark is given at 18. So in some cultures or some regions, 15, 16, 17 could be considered. So it depends on the situation. But in Islam, the moment you become mature, then you don't have excuse not to fast. So a child can be allowed to start fasting, as he rightly said, at the age of 15, 16, 17. You can allow the child to start training. But here in the Gambia, children start fasting even around the age of, can you imagine, 7, 8, 9. Some children will even insist that they must fast. I know my child is almost 11 years, but he will insist that he must have to fast, because in school, almost all the friends are fasting. So that is the kind of pressure children are under to keep fast, even though they have not reached the age. But here is the point. The obligation of fasting, it is prescribed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like any other religious obligation, there must be qualifications. Like at what age is one qualified to marry? Religiously as an obligation, you can marry at what age? And also, when can you go for Hajj? When you have the means. So conditions are attached to every kind of obligations. We should not lose sight of those conditions, which makes the obligations performance a merit and a blessing, instead of being a burden on somebody. And of course, when we mention about the age of fasting, we don't want to treat children like fragile, young ones like fragile things. They should be trained to do hard work. They should be trained to be strong. But that doesn't mean that we have to break them like very early, imposing fasting on them in a competitive spirit, which is not so good.
Thank you very much, Ustaz Dawda SK Cham. And I remember reading about this some time ago. The second Caliph of the Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat, he remembered that the first fast he had was when he was about 12 to 13 years, and it was once, about 12 to 13 years. It was as a form of training, but it was not like that he was matured and it was imposed on him to be fasting. Like you have said about your child and his peers at school.
And I was there. He said that when they wanted to fast, the Prophet will stop them from fasting. He will not allow them to fast, small ones, yeah. So it's not for children anyway.
Exactly. Mr. Diba, we see that, like you have said, in the Gambia, you see parents trying to force their children. You know, they give them so much encouragement to fast, as opposed to other religious duties. Like, for example, they may neglect the prayers, they may neglect every other thing, but when it comes to Ramadan, it's like you have to fast, like everyone else is fasting. Now, let's look at it at the health side. What health implications does that have on a particular child who's been forced to be fasting the whole month of Ramadan?
Thank you. I think that's a very interesting question and an issue. Yeah, many parents in this country compel their children to observe the fast at very early age. And what Ustaz Sam has said is very clear from the religious dimension. We are here really to enlighten the public on the issue of compelling children to fast. We are reminding our esteemed viewers that childhood is very delicate, right? The mental development of children, their intellectual developments, their physical growth and development, and their psychosocial development is dependent on many factors. But among the key factors is good nutrition, okay? And adequate intake of healthy foods. Now, good nutrition is derived from eating a balanced diet, okay? Therefore, it is important that children under the age of 18, 17 should not observe the fast. They need to eat. Fasting calls for abstaining from drinking and eating for at least 14 hours. And that is very unhealthy and risky for children. If the intellectual development of children, their physical growth, and there are milestones, that are used to gauge whether a child is progressing normally, okay? And if nutrition is an important component, and if intellectual growth is an important component, we can only urge the public not to compel children to fast. It can affect their mental development, it can affect their physical development, and consequently, it can even affect their psychosocial relationships in society. Because when you need essential elements in your body, essential nutrients, and they are lacking, or you take them in inadequate amounts, it can affect not only physical growth, it can affect the child's mental development, their intellectual development. And once a person's intellectual development is impaired or affected, you see the manifestations in their life. If a person's physical development is retarded due to inadequate intake of food or inadequate intake of vital nutrients in the body, then his or her life can be affected in many ways. So in order to save children from developing avoidable medical conditions, and in order to prevent children from developing conditions that can affect their mental faculty and their intelligence, they should be allowed not to observe the fast. I think that's important. It's very important. The response of parents to the issue of children fasting depends on their perception. So I think unless we get the perception right, that children need not fast, and two, there are risk factors involved in compelling children to fast, because there are risk factors involved. Unless we recognize those risk factors, the problems in our homes will persist. It will persist. The issue of peer pressure is very important. Children like to emulate other children. They like role modeling. That's why sometimes a child feels, I want to fast because my peers are fasting, my friends are fasting, and that kind of exerts some pressure on them, mental pressure on them to try. But again, it all revolves around the teachers and parents. Yes, a child may be under pressure from other children to observe the fast, but if the parents don't allow him or her, and the teachers discourage them from fasting, then we'll get it right. I think that's important. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Diba. As Ustaz Dauda Eskecham, we from that talking about children, now we talk about adults who are, let's say, eligible to fast, but they are in a certain condition that will not allow them to fast. Now, who are these people? Let's take, for example, if a person is sick, or he's on a journey traveling, or let's say, for example, it's a woman who is in pregnancy or in menstruation. All those people, according to Islam, they should not fast. Now, tell us why those people should not fast.
Ustaz Saab, if you look at fasting, it is prescribed, and you look at the context in which the obligation of fasting is revealed in the Holy Quran. It came in a context of self-discipline, how to attain that self-discipline so that you can be able to exercise excellent morals. And fasting is seen as one of the best tools to achieve that spirit of self-discipline, emotional discipline, intelligent, every kind of discipline which require balanced reactions and behavior. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that the very purpose of fasting, la'allakum tattaqun, so that you can become righteous. The philosophy of fasting is for us to realize that consciousness that God Almighty watches over us and He is taking us to account. So the very idea that stop things that are halal for you, eating and drinking are halal, stop them so that for the sake of Allah, then you'll be empowered to be able to stop things that are haram. So it is like this kind of training. It is meant to give us that spiritual light, that light and that power for us to attain righteousness. So it is the best way of discipline. So if you put that in mind, and also again, when you say antasumu khairul lakum, that you fast is good for you. So these 2 points, if we put them together, realize that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to achieve righteousness and wants us to achieve good well-being. Now, it is the same Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who is cognizant of the human nature and its various, one can say, frailties and strength and weakness, let's put it that way. So He said that, وَمَنْ كَانَ مِنْكُمْ مَرِيدًا أَوْ عَلَى شَفَرٍ, whoever among you is sick or is on a journey, فَإِدَّةٌ مِنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخْرَى, he can count other days outside the month of Ramadan and fast. So if you are sick, you should not fast. If you are on a journey, you should not fast. Therefore, fasting is for somebody who is stationary. He is at home, or he is maybe even if you are traveled to another country or in another village, but this, you have a place where you are staying permanently and you have your food arrangement and so forth. So that is a makan, at least a place where you are staying. Again, when somebody is sick, you are not healthy, you should not fast. And then he went on and said, وَالَّذِينَ يُطِيقُونَ فَفِدْيَةُ طَعَامُ مِسْكِينٍ. He said that those who can fast but with difficulties, there is a great wisdom in this. Some people will look apparently healthy, but if he fast, that will bring about deterioration. His health will decline. Sometimes he or she has to deal with terrible consequence of that fast. Like you have certain disorder in your stomach, you may have some ulcer or some very terrible condition. Even apart from ulcer, other health conditions, like you can have bone problems, whereby If you become so weak, your system will almost collapse. So apparently by looking at you, people think, oh, you are healthy. But the moment you fast, your health will decline. You may suffer. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that those people, they should not fast. And look at the pregnant women also. They are under the same category. They are under yutikuna. They can fast apparently, but if you, like our able Naba Misab said, he said, you need food in order to balance your physical health. Now, ladies they are pregnant, they are conceived. Their body depends on the nutrients that they have from taking food. And the baby that is developing inside depends on the same nutrient. And let me remind you, the word fasting we discussed here last time is Ramadan. It means heat, burnt up. So if you are fasting, your internal system is almost dry. So it's so hot inside. Will you like your child to grow in that horrible heat? What are you doing to the baby that is growing inside? So even if you drink, you feel your body inside is so hot. So it's not healthy to fast as a pregnant woman. You may fast, but if you fast, the harm it will cause to you and even more seriously to the child that is growing inside, you cannot understand it. That is why later in life, you see some children they grow up with certain difficulties. Like some of them have this brain problem. And we think that we will say, okay, it's the gene that causes this and that. But pregnancy, fasting on pregnancy can affect a child's life future. You may not know. Even the intelligence can be affected, apart from developing epilepsy and other conditions. Because the body is heat up, you are fasting as a pregnant lady. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us exception, it is based on divine wisdom. So as Jesus said, he said that obedience is greater than sacrifice. So you cannot make Allah surprised as how much you can suffer. You can make Allah surprised how much you can obey him. Most probably. If you want to surprise God, just obey him. And you cannot obey God by disobedience. If Allah said, don't do this, you say, okay, I will do it because I want to obey him. He's the one who said we should fast. But he said that if you are sick, don't fast. You say, still now you want to fast. So you cannot obey God by disobeying him. Or let me not put it like that. You cannot please God by disobeying him. Better.
Thank you very much, Ustaz Dauda. And I hope that same thing applies to not only pregnant women as well, breastfeeding women as well.
Exactly, the breastfeeding women. When you are breastfeeding, the child is depend on that breast milk. Sometimes you even have to buy some medicine in order for you to increase the volume of your breast milk. See? So therefore, if you are fasting, the shortage of breast milk. And number two, it's not also healthy for yourself. I know of, I also practice homeopathy. I know of a lady who fasted, but in the evening he said his bone is like, the legs is like, it's like the bones in the leg are empty. So she suffered a lot. I said, you should not fast. Then after she stopped fasting, she never had that problem again because she was breastfeeding. See? So
thank you very much, Ustaz Dauda. Mr. Dibe, we have just few minutes to go, but we talk about chronic ailments. There are a lot of people who have chronic ailments in the Gambia and in other countries. And sometimes it's difficult for them to understand whether they should fast or not, what are the health implications of that. But like we always have in the Gambia, even pregnant women will want to fast. Breastfeeding women will want to fast, just because they want to prove that they are strong, like you have said. But it all depends on your obedience to God. If you are obedient to God by following his commands, whether it is by doing a thing or abstaining from a thing, that is the best for everyone. But those who have chronic ailments, are they allowed to fast or they should not at all fast?
Well, a chronic ailment is an ailment or a condition which persists throughout life or for a long spell of time in a lifetime. And they require effective management. And some of them, strictly there may not be a cure, but they can be managed. However, when a person has a chronic condition, like Ustaz Cham said, you cannot satisfy God by disobeying him. There are exemptions attached to fasting. And these exemptions are commandments from God. And if you ignore them, you are turning against God's commandment. It is not advisable for any person with a chronic condition to keep fast. One, you need, if medicines are prescribed for you, you need to take your medicines according to the regime prescribed by the doctor. That's very important. And failure to take your drugs according to the regime prescribed by the doctor is very risky. It can land yourself in trouble. Okay? You also know that when a person is ill, they require food and drinks. Okay? To help the body naturally fight the condition. Okay? Or to resist the condition. So if you deprive your body of the nutrients and the energy that it requires to fight a condition, then you are leaving yourself open, okay, to developing complications. So it is not advisable to keep fast when you have a chronic condition. Chronic conditions require lifelong management and treatment. And lifelong management and treatment calls for taking your drugs regularly as prescribed. And when you fast, you cannot take those drugs according to the drug regime. It's very unsafe. It can also retard the process of recovery. Mm-hmm. Adequate nutrition and food intake is critical to prognosis of a condition. Okay, if the body is given the amount of energy it needs and the nutrients it needs, it can speed up the recovery process. Then common sense tells us that if you deprive your body of those ingredients, really, the recovery process is either retarded or complications can develop. So it's important that we compensate for the fast. Stop fast and compensate for it. But if your condition does not allow you to pay up by way of fasting, then there's expiation prescribed in the Holy Quran. Mm-hmm. There's an expiation very clear. There's a very clear substitute stipulated in the Holy Quran. And that's the answer, really. Yeah. In this country, people are very sensitive to what other people are going to say about them. We are extremely sensitive to that in the Gambia. Mm-hmm. Okay? That's how the society perceives each other. That, for me, people should not bother a lot about how other people perceive them or what other people say about them. Do the right thing. Do the right thing. That's it. Okay? And then put your health and your destiny in your own hand. Don't transfer to someone else. I think that's the secret.
Your ailment and condition cannot transfer to someone else.
Cannot transfer to someone else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, Mr. Diba and Ustaz Dauda SK Cham. Viewers, this is All Time Allowed Us. I was your host, Ustaz Ibrahim Ba, on your program, the Ramadan series. On today's issue, we were talking about Ramadan and health. And we have all together heard what our panelists have said on the subject. And I think you heed to their advice for the benefit of yourself and everyone who lives around you. Thank you very much. This is All Time Allowed Us from us MTA Gambia International Studio. We say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.